welcome to this edition of Would You Rather. Today's Would You Rather is, would you rather live 1,000 years in the future, which is Yom's position, or 1,000 years in the past, which is T-Fam's position? Yom, lead us off.
Alrighty. I would much rather live 1,000 years in the future because, number one, I'm assuming I'm cryogenically frozen, kind of like Futurama. So they will hopefully, by then, know how to get me out of that and bring me back without being some sort of horrible mutated freak. And I'm a little eager to know what we're doing right now, how that's going to affect the future. So, I will be the only one who remembers, the things that we're doing right now. But I can say, well, we did this, and then this happened, and on behalf of the 21st century, I'm sorry.
Alright, I'd rather live 1,000 years in the past. Yes, it's the Dark Ages, it's not a good time to live, but there's a lot less of a learning curve that you have to deal with. If you work the system right, you could have a great life. It could be easy to overthrow powers back then because you have so much more knowledge than they would. You know how things turned out, so you know how to manipulate that. Then you could end up being a king or something, They don't have DNA tests or anything like that to know if you're royalty or whatever, so you can convince them that you are king, and then guess what? You have a great life after that. And you can help change some things, too.
Talk about a learning curve. You're going 1,000 years that way. Things are nothing like they are now. You do have knowledge of how things turn out. A vague, basic knowledge of how things happened. But if you try to mess around with that, you could alter how things are now. And how things are going to be 1,000 years from now. So don't ruin this for me. Alright? That's the big problem with going back in time. You know how things turn out, and you try to facilitate them, make them happen faster, and you end up screwing up the future, so it is not like it is now.
Yes, I could end up meddling with time a little bit, but with 1,000 years in the future, guess what? You're meddling time with the people 1,000 years from then, and so on and so forth. So you're doing the same thing. Argument isn't valid there. But with 1,000 years in the future, you're not going to know even a vague idea of what it was like or how to act or things like that. You could say hello, and to them, that could be the most offensive thing in the world. You could say, hello, my name is Yom, and they would punch you in the face and then put you back in the cryogenic freezer for another 10,000 years or however long it takes for the Earth to implode. With living in the past, you have that vague idea. You can figure out things. With 1,000 years in the future, just imagine with our people a generation older than us. They have trouble with technology. Imagine the technology difference between 2009 and the year 3009. Huge technological difference. That's just going to be a learning curve that you may never figure out.
You could have very well killed off America. Nay, the Western world at large. I'm just going to be the jackass who gets shot with a laser 5 minutes outside the ice coffin. Alright?
Alright, 1,000 years in the future, you have a much steeper learning curve. You don't know anything that's going on. With 1,000 years in the past, you have a vague idea of how you should act and how things turned out, and you can use that to your advantage.